The White House just said the quiet part out loud. On April 23rd, the Office of Science and Technology Policy issued a 2-page memo, National Science and Technology Memorandum number 4, that says, in plain language, that foreign entities, principally based in China, are running industrial-scale campaigns to copy American AI models. The way they're doing it, according to the memo, is by using tens of thousands of proxy accounts to poke at American AI models through the public API until those models leak. Not state-sponsored hackers breaking into a server room, account holders at scale. The memo is 2 pages, signed by Michael Kratsios, the director of OSTP. It's short, the claims are not. 3 things are worth getting right before anyone spins them. First, the White House is naming a specific technique. Not hacking, not stealing model weights, not corporate espionage. The word used is distillation. Distillation in machine learning is a legitimate process. You take a big capable model and you train a smaller model to mimic its outputs. The small model is cheaper to run, and if you do it well, it captures most of what the big one knows. Every major AI lab uses distillation. Every AI company you've heard of ships distilled variants. This is not the part the memo has a problem with. What the memo is talking about is adversarial distillation. Same mechanical process, different consent. You do not have access to the big model. You do not own it. You interact with it through its public API from tens of thousands of accounts you've set up to avoid detection, and you log every response to train your own model on what the big model told you. When you are done, you have a smaller model that appears to know most of what the big model knows, and you never paid for the training that produced the big model in the first place. That's the move the memo is calling out. The number matters. 10 accounts is a bad actor, 10,000 is a program, tens of thousands is an industrial line. The memo is also direct about geography. The phrase is foreign entities principally based in China, not an adversary, not a peer competitor, China by name, in a numbered White House memorandum. Second, the memo says attackers are using jailbreaking to pull out more than the API is supposed to give up. Jailbreaking in the AI security sense means crafting prompts that trick a model into bypassing its own safety controls. The memo says foreign campaigns are using those techniques at scale to expose what the memo calls proprietary information, model behavior, and capability that the original developer deliberately restricted. The point is not one clever prompt. The point is doing it across tens of thousands of accounts until you have a complete map of what the safe version is hiding. Third, and this is the part people will quote, the memo says these distilled models do not replicate the full performance of the original, but they do enable foreign actors to release products that appear to perform comparably on select benchmarks at a fraction of the cost. It also says the distillation process allows those actors to strip security protocols from their resulting models and undo the mechanisms that ensure those AI models are ideologically neutral and truth-seeking. That last phrase is loaded. Reasonable people will disagree on what truth-seeking AI means. The technical claim underneath the loaded language is straightforward, though. You can ship a model that looks competitive on the leaderboard while having quietly removed the parts the original lab spent months installing. The leaderboard does not check whether the safety layer is still attached. If you are a developer at a frontier US AI company, distillation by your own API users is a known problem. The terms of service prohibit it. Rate limits exist partially because of it. Account verification exists partially because of it. What the memo is describing is that the detection pressure that assumes ordinary adversaries is insufficient against a coordinated campaign running tens of thousands of proxy accounts in parallel, distributed across geographies, payment methods, and IP ranges. The second claim worth taking seriously is the capability gap. A distilled model that matches a frontier model on select benchmarks at a fraction of the training cost is, if real at the scale the memo implies, an economic equalizer. Benchmarks are not the same as capability. But in a world where a foreign AI release that scores competitively on public benchmarks is the basis for export deals and public credibility, the benchmark score is most of what matters in the press cycle. 4 things. In order from the memo, share information with US AI companies about foreign distillation attempts, including tactics and actors, enable the private sector to coordinate against those attacks, develop best practices with industry to identify, mitigate, and remediate industrial scale distillation, and explore a range of measures to hold foreign actors accountable. Read those carefully. The operative verbs are share, enable, develop, and explore. There is no new regulation in this memo. There is no export control in this memo. There is no rule forbidding Chinese firms from buying API access in this memo. This is an information sharing and coordination posture announced publicly so that the targets of the alleged campaign know they've been called out and the victims know Washington has their back. Whether that posture turns into enforcement action is the next move. This memo is the opening paragraph. There is one line in the memo that security people should clip and keep. As methods to detect and mitigate industrial-scale distillation grow more sophisticated, foreign entities who build their AI capabilities on such fragile foundations should have little confidence in the integrity and reliability of the models they produce. Translated, if you distilled your model from a U.S. frontier model without consent, and the U.S. starts actively watermarking, fingerprinting, or behaviorally tagging its outputs to detect downstream copies, your product becomes provably derivative and provably fragile right when you need it most. That is a threat with teeth, even without new export controls attached to it. The leverage is detection, not law. Quick disclosure here. One of the Gula Tech Adventures portfolio companies is Starseer, does Starseer.ai. What Starseer does is exactly the capability that becomes more valuable the moment this memo's framing takes hold. They give you tools to look inside a large language model, modify it, and understand its actual security risks at the weights level, not just at the prompt and response surface. If you want to know what's been added, what's been stripped, or what's been quietly distilled in from somewhere else, that inspection has to happen on the model itself, not on the chat window in front of it. In a world where the United States government is officially calling distilled models fragile foundations, the ability to actually open one up and look at it stops being an academic exercise. It becomes the diligence layer. A link to Starseer is in the description. The White House did not announce a regulation. It announced a framing. The framing is that industrial scale distillation, specifically from China, specifically at the tens of thousands of account scale, specifically using jailbreaking as the extraction technique, is no longer a quiet enterprise problem. It is a named category of adversarial activity that the executive branch is now willing to talk about in a numbered memorandum. For US AI companies, that means government information sharing on distillation TTPs is now officially on the table. For foreign AI companies whose release strategy depends on looking benchmark competitive, the detection cost just went up. And for the rest of us, it means the next few releases of supposedly open models that score impressively on leaderboards are going to come with a question the memo has now put on record: where did the training data come from and who actually owns the capability underneath?